Hi there, welcome to this new Angular lecture. This is the agenda for today, observer pattern. We're going to get to know this software development idea, and the ReactiveX JavaScript library, which is how Angular implements this observer design pattern. So let's have a look at the observer pattern quickly. And for that, let's think of this YouTube channel as an example. Key value is the video channel on YouTube, and it has some subscribers, as you can see, S1, S2, S3, in this case 3 subscribers. As soon as there is content, new content at the source, these 3 subscribers are going to get a notification, a new video has been uploaded. So if you are subscribed, you're going to get that notification simply because you are subscribed to the key value channel. These, on the other hand, since this subscriber is actually not subscribed to this channel, is not going to have any notification. So the idea is pretty simple. So basically here the key value channel is the source of data, or the subject, many call. At the moment that you there is new content, the state or the data changes at the source is going to be automatically, as in the graph here described, update all subscribers. So that's the basic idea of this pattern. And the Angular, well, here you find a technical explanation of the same idea. Here we have the keyword subject, but that is the source of the data. In our previous example, the key value channel. The subject is responsible for registering and register an observer, and of course notify all the observers, or in our case, subscribers. And the Angular solution of or implementation of this very nice idea is using ReactiveX JavaScript library. That's how the it's not that the Angular itself has implemented it, because other ingenious people have created ReactiveX JavaScript library already. So, and they have a focus on pretty much on how to deal with these things, and they're very good. So Angular just took that package and integrated into Angular. So of course I'm talking about Angular 6 here, so if this package does not come in future versions, you might want just to install yourself. You already know how to do that, but just using a package manager and integrate it into your project. Well, when you look at this, what really is this JavaScript library about is for composing asynchronous and event-based programs. Remember that events could be a thing that is being caused by the window browser or by the user himself, by using observable sequences. And these observable sequences, it's basically the events that we're talking about in here. Remember that SPAs, single page applications, heavily at the core, I mean, at the fundamental level, they use asynchronous methods to operate. So, for example, when you in our Tour of Heroes tutorial, when we are requesting hero data, now we're doing it manually, of course, but in a real application, you will have to send a request to a server somewhere in the world, and we will be served at the client side with that data. So yeah, events like that, it will be nice to, in a very smooth way, handle that functionality, because if we recall in the past, most of the web applications were not asynchronous, they were synchronous alone. And what that would mean is if you wanted to request some data, while the data was being served and loaded into your web application, you had to wait. The user unfortunately had to wait, meaning that the screen, the user interface got frozen. So for a while, until that event was, or that functionality, that process was handled. So, and that was pretty annoying, of course. Now it's unthinkable that a web application does that. So Angular in this case uses this awesome ReactiveX JavaScript library, and of course I'm going to put the in the bibliography the links to these sources, so you can learn the details about it, what an observable is, and all these concepts based on the idea that we just discussed, the observer pattern idea. So now let's have a look at the practical, how we actually implemented in the Tour of Heroes tutorial. So guys, here we are with our Tour of Heroes tutorial. As you can see, from the user perspective, nothing has changed. I can still select my heroes, and the selected hero is highlighted on the this hero details component. If we look into the anatomy of the application itself, well, we still have nothing has really changed in terms of what I have here, components and so on. However, in heroes components, I'm going to make use of an entire different paradigm of how I'm requesting or getting the data, which is the list of heroes. Here is not visible because it's entirely the same code. This is what I'm still using, the hero service, the list of heroes, and it looks like the dynamics have not changed. However, the visual has not changed, but the dynamics behind the scenes, how I'm getting the data, it's entirely different. So let's have a look at the code. And here I am already, just for your information, this we've been studying this code from the beginning, initial commit. Now we are checking out this commit, requesting data from server asynchronously, and we will look into these methods of observable and subscribe, or these keywords, if you like, these concepts. And these are coming from the ReactiveX JavaScript library that Angular uses. So where am I using that? Since the hero service is the responsible for accessing the data or requesting the data, the heroes list, we're gonna start looking in there, because those changes are made in this file. Let me just zoom in. There you go. And here, what you do have, let me just close this one. What you do have is, well, first of all, I'm still using the mock of heroes, because I am simulating that the data is gonna come from a server. So it's not, I still don't have a backend, a server, but I'm just gonna pretend I'm gonna get the data as it normally should come, in the shape it should come, or I should receive that data. So that's happening. We're still using that one. And the very new thing is this line. So we do have, or we're gonna make use of observable. Remember the idea of the observer pattern. In this case, the subject, where the source of data, is gonna be observable. And I also require this of method. Yeah, coming from the library that I already told you is not an Angular core functionality. This is just awesome, different ingenious guys creating this specific code, and Angular just uses it and puts it in the whole framework. Okay. So let's have a look at how we're gonna use or create our observables. And these, just for comparison reasons, this was our previous code. And but we were fetching the data immediately from the mock heroes, the hard-coded heroes, which basically was a array, nothing else. We were returning that array containing the heroes, and that was happening synchronously. So that is in reality, single-page applications do not work this way. So let's work in a more real environment, and the real environment is asynchronous, of course. And this time we're going to use the observable. And of course, coming from the ReactiveX JavaScript library. Here, the important thing is to know is that observable is an any set of values. So what you are actually, you should think of an observable as a collection. That's exactly what it is. And when you look into this method, the returning type of this method is actually a collection, an observable containing the array inside the array of heroes. Yeah. So for testing purposes, and we're gonna display the list of heroes that we are importing in here, the mock heroes that we already know how it looks like, but just for understanding the observable, we're going to see the differences. So I have in line 24 a console, logging to the console that mock of heroes. And in line 25, I'm using the function that I'm importing from the library, the reactive library, ReactiveX library, of. And the only reason I'm doing this here, because I told you we need observables for using this observer pattern. The only reason to use this of is converting this array of heroes into an observable. So from this point and on, I do have an observable. Okay, I'm returning an observable, so I can make use of this nice idea of this observer pattern. Okay. So that's the only thing why we're using this off. In reality, the data will come from the server in a synchronous way, and we will make a request, and we will expect an observable right away. So let's have a look at these two lines. Here, I'm gonna set a breakpoint on. Oh well, no, it's at the console. So let me just refresh the page. And let's look at the console, and you will see hero service at line 24. It's just logging the mock of heroes. We already are familiar with how it looks like, right? Nothing really unknown in here. It's an array of heroes. And in line 25, that is the conversion of this data into an observable. And you will see that's quite a different thing. And that's quite nice, because if I do have an observable, you can subscribe to this, so you are updated with the values that this observable contains. Or if this observable change the tour of heroes list, then you will get all the subscribers will get notifications and will update automatically. And that's a nice way of working with observables. And if you look into the anatomy of their own observable, of course, you can always go to the API, the official site. I'm talking about the ReactiveX JavaScript library, and you can find plenty of information and exact information how to about the parameters that are expected, or how to subscribe to an observable, etc., etc. Here, the important thing is, the important property of an observable is the value thing. Do not think that an observable, as previously shown, is a collection, immediately the values being stored as in the array in this example immediately there. No, it's an object which has a property value, and in that value my array appears. Okay, so not because it's a singular property value, it doesn't mean that you only have one item. In that value is of in this case of type array, and I'm having these specific elements, the complete list under the value property. Okay, so let's pretend I have got this from the server, this data, and then let's see how an observer gets the notification, and how can I do this, what can I do with this data coming from the server. So that is the service. That has been the little change in the hero service. I'm not requesting it synchronously. I'm requesting, by doing just this, I'm requesting it in a asynchronous way. And that's fine, because while the browser is waiting for this data, coming usually from the server, the user can still continue using the Angular application with no frozen screens or like in the past. Now let's go to the heroes component, because in the heroes component, remember that we do have the we inject the hero service. As you can see in the constructor, we are using the hero service. So since our hero service already contained when we call the get heroes function or method, what we are receiving here, remember, is an observable already. Okay, so this was the previous code. That was, again, it was in a synchronous way. And we were just simply calling the same function, but this function has slightly, slightly changed, but with the observer pattern in mind. So that's a massive change. The paradigm is completely different now. So when we call the get heroes, now what we can do is subscribe, and that is the massive change, the power of observables. So when you call this function, you get the observable, and actually you can see the whole methods and properties of the object. And this is the relevant one for us, the subscribe. Of course, we have coded that already. So in the subscribe, what we basically, the subscription is actually happening in here. And the subscribe is simply a method that expects, well, basically this next is just the parameter in here. And you can also have a different parameter called error, as you can see here, the error and the complete. Those are functions in the end. But the relevant one for us is what's happening in the next notification, because this is going to be the actual notification. This is slightly more complicated than what I'm telling you here, but to keep it simplified, because now you might be expecting, and where the heck do I find the observer itself, right? Because you normally would believe or think I need to, let me just redo this. You normally would expect something, okay, a new observer type, right? And then perhaps throw here the next and the error and the complete, like I just shown you. Forget about the syntax for now. But you would expect something like this, and then observer, I mean, and then use this observer when you subscribe, because the observer is watching the changes in the value in the source, in the data source, right? So, and then you would pass such an observer over here, observer, with these different values, and that's possible, of course, but it's implicitly, this is implicitly, let me get back, implicitly created behind the scenes for you. So what you have here, in simple words, is an observer. Okay, remember that observer is a simple object with 3 functions in it, or 3 callbacks, better said. And that's you can call this the observer. And if you look carefully at the definition of, let me get rid of this one. At the definition of this line, there you go. If you look carefully at the definition of this line, all you're doing here is passing the parameter heroes, and populating this dot heroes is the property that we have defined here of a type array of heroes, and then I'm just assigning that heroes, whatever I'm passing into this callback into heroes. That's the only thing, basically, what the data coming from the server. Okay. In other words, just to keep it even simpler, you could say that the heroes component has a property which observes at all times the observable that is being returned by the hero service. That's it. Another important thing to mention here is, if I do not have the subscribe of the subscription, then you would never execute the actual observable. So that code will be never executed. It will be like a dead code, and that's by design, because you don't have any subscription to it. The moment that an observable makes or emits the data, you need a subscriber for it. You need to have a observer with it. So what we're gonna do is, at the moment that we have this, what we are doing is basically executing the observable. Yeah, and therefore this specific code on the hero service is being executed. Okay, so the execution of this basically depends on the subscriptions. And I think that's all about it. I highly recommend you to go to the official site, ReactiveX JS. This is how you write And yeah, here you can find the documentation about the important concepts that this uses. So that this library uses a more in detail explanation. So if you want to know about everything about the how ReactiveX implements this design pattern, observer design pattern, or subscriber design pattern, you can find it in here. So but that being said, I think yeah, we can just go back to the application and see how definitely it works. We also are logging here a line after the observable has emitted the values, and we have stored in the components property heroes, and then we will see back as we initially had before using observables. You see an array full of heroes here and there as well, like in the beginning. So the paradigm is entirely different. The outcome is exactly the same, but of course this time is smarter the way we do it is. And that's thanks to this line of code in the heroes component. This one. Once the data, we're just assigning the data that is being emitted from the subject or from the data source, it's going to be input into the heroes, and only the value of that observable is going to be copied in there, of course. So that's how you gather the data. And that's it, guys. See you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.